Hello and welcome back to another video on the artist philosophy and how you can improve the clarity and creativity of your work. Today we're going to be discussing perfectionism. Perfectionism really is a destructive thing, so one of the questions that I think we have to grapple with as artists is how can we overcome our perfectionistic tendencies? It comes from a good place in the sense that it comes from a genuine desire to make something good. It comes from a motivation of mastery, which is a great motivation, but it can sort of degenerate into perfectionism. I think I'll define perfectionism by two characteristics. The first is an obsession with detail. When we become overly obsessed with detail, our creativity sort of gets swallowed up in this obsession with detail. So I can give a couple examples. Say you're an artist and you start drawing a face. You become very involved with the eye and then suddenly you become obsessed with the eye. And you work super hard on that one eye. And you have to get this eye just right. But then you zoom out and you look at the picture as a whole. And the eye has sort of swallowed the rest of the picture. So nothing fits with the eye any longer, and it sort of dominates the rest of the frame in a way that makes it extremely difficult for the artist to progress any further on, let's say, the face as a whole. So we have to be very careful not to let this first characteristic of perfectionism halt our progress. And now I would like to speak to what I think the second characteristic is. So I think the second characteristic of perfectionism is unrealistic expectations. Let's say you have an idea for a book, and you have an idea in this book for a character and a world and how it all kind of comes together. And in your mind, it all fits together quite nicely. However, we often find when we try to translate what we envision in our mind onto the medium, our expectations of how good the idea we envision is inaccurate. The reason is because when we take what we envision and we translate that onto the artistic medium, it then becomes something physical that we can reflect on. Being able to reflect on what we've translated onto the page now allows us to see all the inconsistencies that we were blind to in our vision of the idea. And so we've talked about two things so far. We've talked about how one aspect of perfectionism is an obsession with details, and another aspect of perfectionism is unrealistic expectations caused by the blind spots of our own artistic vision. And so the common theme of perfectionism actually has to do with left brain thinking rather than right brain thinking. So there's the classic dichotomy, right? The classic dichotomy of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And the left hemisphere is more logical, and the right hemisphere is more intuitive and creative. This is a slight oversimplification of what we know neurologically about the brain. However, it's a great heuristic as an artist, and so I'm going to use this dichotomy. So it's our left brain evaluating how good our vision is. So the left brain is concerned with two things. It's concerned with justification and social approval. The evaluation of our own artistic vision from our left brain is sort of biased in the sense that it really wants to justify our artistic vision, and two, it has these expectations of the social approval it's going to be met with based off of how good it thinks the idea is. The overvaluation of left brain thinking is utterly antithetical to what it means to be an artist. And so if you really think about it, this idolization is something like pride. It's a sort of obsession with coherency, it's an obsession with detail, it's an obsession with social approval. It's all these things. You can see how this pride can seep in and corrupt and halt the artist. And so, in order to avoid the trap of perfectionism, we need to reconnect with our inner artist. To do this, you have to let go of your grandiose expectations. You have to be willing to play the fool. You have to try things. You have to try new things. You have to go beyond what you know. You know, many artists say write what you know, but I believe firmly that it's also vital to write what you don't know, to pursue what hasn't been pursued. And the act of doing this puts the intuitive layer of our intelligence at the forefront of our exploration, because many times it's very difficult for our ego to sort of see the fringes of our knowledge. However, the layer of intelligence that is responsible for dealing with the unknown, it's the brain that we have dreams with every night. It's the brain that is making these sort of blurry, free associations, and these associations eventually lead to a definite insight. However, in their nascent form, they're dreamlike, incoherent, and undeveloped. And so this layer of knowledge is fundamentally how we can explore the unknown. It's what allows us to become playful again. It's what allows us to play with what we don't know and lose that pride, lose those expectations we have for our artistic vision, and be able to grow as a result. And so one of the suggestions I have is to make it a habit to produce or generate something new every day. And take this thing that you generate that's new, whether it's a short story, whether it's a song that you wrote, and show it to some people before you edit it. Making it a habit to show your work early helps you become less concerned with mistakes and more concerned with progress. And one last quote I'll read. "A painting is never finished. It simply stops in interesting places."